Are we all present and accounted for? Oh, cool. Well, this is this is Sheila, and yes, I have my gal pals with me, Lisa Flamino Rush and BZ Rigger, and this is actually a QCCC alert. We decided we were going to play with that. And, yeah, whoop, whoop, whoop. I love that. So we all got our alerts today, which I thought was very cool. Then I got an extra little alert actually because BZ texted and said it has begun. And I have to say, I told you earlier, BZ, when I got that, it was just like a whole body rush. It was like, I don't know. It was like I gave myself permission or something. And it's been a giddy afternoon. And I can't explain why.
Right.
I mean, I can, but.
Well, the way that I would explain it is not only all the beings on the planet who understood were able to cognize what that alert said, were ecstatic. An awful lot of beings who maybe didn't have a clue about it or don't have a lot of clue in the background, their soul went, wee-ha, right? What did we say we're going to do? Wee, which is WEA, right? For the warning system. And a lot of, all of the company of all of our souls, all of our expanded selves, all of our star family out there, and all of those ships, which is, I don't even know the count on the beings that are out there. But so what you felt was a multiverse frequency of the whole tide clicking in.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that feels wonderful.
Yeah, I love the way that sounds. I know that's what it really does feel like that too.
Yes.
Well, I was wondering if, because I don't want it to go out of my head again, but you shared something with me that I was not aware of in regards to this whole emergency alert system thing. Would you mind repeating that for everyone? Because I know that, as a puzzle piece collector, that's a puzzle piece I didn't have. So I'm really interested.
I'm not certain of the exact date, but this, hang on, let me pull up.
Well, because I've been mulling the test over in my mind.
Yeah.
And when you shared this bit that you're going to share here, because I was originally thinking, okay, wait a minute, what's wrong with the emergency broadcast system? Now I didn't know whether or not it's connected to the cell and all of that, which I'm gathering is maybe part of it. But then I also thought that's actually through the Federal Communications thing and not through FEMA. So that would make it different as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because then I was thinking, okay, well, wait a minute. The Amber Alert, is that a state thing? Is that something that would go by state? Because, those come over the cells too.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you have to, so let me back up for a minute. So part of what you're talking about is the national broadcast system so that's mostly on radio, right? Okay. And then you have, so kind of in the history of it, you have the analog systems and the digital systems, and they're now catching up with each other. And it still will go out on radios for the emergency broadcast and that signal. It will also go on digital because so much of that it's not exclusively that, because not everybody has that. So you can't just say, oh, well, we're done with the analog, because that doesn't work. So the WE is the wireless emergency alert. And one of the things that you're referring to that I mentioned is that there's the emergency broadcast system, which has been in effect for 80, 90 years, I think it is,
Oh,
since the
wow.
very beginning of radio broadcast.
Radio.
They
right.
had other systems that were more local, where some kind of thing in a city would basically do a siren, and it would be done that way. So that's why I say longer than just radio. Okay.
Right.
And then this whole other system. So Amber Alert has been involved for a long time. I think Amber Alerts came out around 04, 05, not quite, so around that time.
Sure.
But in the process when they are working that up, so around 2009, don't quote me on that, but around there, this WEA alert system,
Okay.
and part of the FEMA management alert system, those other systems came in on tandem. And think about that time frame that I just talked about. They came in on another person's watch. Okay. And those were put into place, and those were set up, but they were never actually tested. And the reason that those were put into place and set up was so that people could get these kinds of things, and then they would be all herded into, many people have reported on the FEMA camps and all that kind of stuff. And that was the original design for all of this. So it's great. I call it cosmic irony that today we have this alert go out from another person who's, in the Oval Office, and with the exact opposite intention. And there will be some herding, but it's a small select group of herding, and it's to bring everything to a close. So that was the part that you were mentioning.
Right.
Yeah, that's the we.
Let the fun begin.
Well, I felt like that was something that is very interesting and should be shared, and because that is kind of, it's like, I don't know, I've seen it's the years leading up to this, there have been a lot of citizen journalists and others, the alternative media, that have talked a lot about the FEMA camps and, martial law and things like that. And there's like an undercurrent still out there. I think there are some folks that are, it's like, we were talking before. I know that the David Zublik channel, Truth Unsealed, has done a video. I didn't get to see all of it yet, but he was talking about how, Trump may very well enact martial law. And I have felt that if it became necessary, of course he would. But I can see too where, there's still some, as those that feel cornered, try to pump up some of that, even within those that have been paying attention, and that's why I was saying, I think before, I was feeling very, very certain that we all need to keep our hands wide open because of all kinds of things like that.
Right. Well, how many times have we had, full conversations about, focused on it, and then touched on it in many other conversations about your discernment meter,
Right.
and standing in, you're the expert, all the different channels out there, the three of us, doesn't matter, unless it has to do with Lisa for Lisa and Sheila for Sheila and BZ for BZ, doesn't matter.
Right.
Each one of us is the expert.
Right.
And so, yes, you can listen to different things, absolutely, get information, have conversations, terrific, but you're the one who's the expert, and you're the one who has the guidance. So
Right.
Hopefully you've been honing that, for the last year and a half, or more, and certainly the last 6 months. And to remember too that there's a tremendous, we've talked about this many times just in the last, I don't know what, 5-6 weeks, that there's a lot of theater going on. And right this moment, there's a lot of theater going on. So you could say, well, we don't know how it's going to turn out. We don't know how the vote's going to turn out on Kavanaugh. We don't know how, look at how the Democrats or the Republicans or this and that happening. It's theater. 99% of it is theater. So when you hear someone say theater, I went to the theater and I saw this great play and it was dramatic. And, this was happening and this scene did this. Turn on the news, look at Twitter, it's theater. And I mean that with specificity and particularity.
Yeah.
So another way I might say that in a linear way is you're watching plea deals in real time unfold as those theater roles. Does that make it a little clearer?
Yes, it does. And actually, when we were talking about this earlier, it really explains a whole lot of what I'm seeing out of, specific politicians that in, my not too distant past, I'm seeing things and I'm like, I'm sorry, who are you? That kind of thing. It's like, this, and one particular politician in particular is Lindsey Graham. Mm-hmm. In my mind, that is, I was like, okay, go, dude, but then I didn't even think about the fact that what we were seeing is his deal being acted out.
Yes.
As theater. And when you put it like that, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense.
Doesn't it? It really does. It gives you such a clear picture and kind of an exciting one.
Yeah.
It looks as though, I've heard people, when's something going to happen? And it's just like, to me, there's so many something's happening everywhere you look. I can't even keep up anymore.
Right. But again, it's that attachment to a certain way. Do they think they're going to hear the, what is it, the music that just came in from The Wizard of Oz? Whoa, whoa, right? And the boots are marching, and you're going to see them walking down the street with tanks, and they're pulling, just the Democrats. No, because they're not two parties. There's one party, right?
Right.
The Republicrats or the Democrats, right? It's all the same. It's only one. It's only because how do you make the illusion that you have choice? Well, you got to have, this push me, pull you, both controlled, and then you have a few ancillary, pushies and pulleys over here, which are quote unquote independent candidates and yada, yada, yada. And because that's how you have the illusion of choice. Just like with pharmaceutical companies, you have the illusion of choice with, the GNC, then was it Natural Health, and so a lot of those are big corporate things, and it's the same kind of thing because you keep people controlled. When they start to get a bit too big for their britches, or they start to actually have consciousness come online, you got to throw a few more newfangled things, new choices there, so you kind of keep them along. And it's started by the great one, Anu. It's that push me, pull you, that fight, and kind of coming at each other in different ways that kept him, his sons doing that. So Anki and Enlil, so that they wouldn't focus on him, right? So that's the same. Look at, if I give you that thing, now look at how it's playing out right now. So that's what you're seeing. One of the things, bring up a couple things just that's interesting is that the Attorney General was in Utah today. And yes, he made publicity about thanking the men in blue and so on and so forth. But that's also where Huber is. And so he's had meetings with him. And he also is subpoenaed, and the subpoena is due. He was subpoenaed by the House committee on the judicial in the House of Representatives, and he's due to complete that subpoena tomorrow, the day after that he's met with Huber. So there's lots of stuff going on. There's lots of theater, and when you see various vocal, people whipping stuff up and all of that kind of thing, think theater. And, sometimes you go, wow, this is ridiculous. But if you keep thinking theater, and then you keep thinking plea deal in real time activity,
Yep.
then you go, I see.
I love it when a good plan comes together. Oh, how delicious.
No, right? I know. It is cosmically delicious. Well, there is so much going on. And there was a couple of things today in South Carolina as well. Now we discovered, talking to each other, we thought we were talking about the same thing. Come to find out you knew about something that we didn't.
Yeah.
I know that something has taken place in Florence, South Carolina, which I thought was rather I don't know, synchronistic, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were sharing with Lisa and I that there was a plane crash. Was that yesterday or?
I believe that was Friday, right
Friday.
after Lindsey Graham's fiery questioning, where he was in theory questioning Kavanaugh during the his half of the Blasey Ford inquiry there last Thursday. Although he wasn't questioning Kavanaugh at all, he was telling him you have nothing to apologize for, and then he turned and yelled at all of the
well, everybody, pretty much.
Everybody, right.
I mean, that's the way I took it.
Yeah. So, theater, plea deal, you use those phrases again.
Right.
And the next day, a fighter jet I think it was early the next morning, a South Carolina fighter jet went down, and the pilot ejected.
Right.
So, but that was brought down. We discussed that. That's brought down by various operatives that have compromised a lot of the mechanics and technology in the planes, and but it's known compromise, and so when the telemetry comes into compromise, the white hats will say telemetry catches it, tells the pilots to eject, and then either does it themselves so that they can determine how they're going to blow up or down the aircraft, or it lets the nefarious signal telemetry come in and do that. So you blow up an expensive piece of machinery, but right now this is a valuable asset to do that, so you're not tipping your hand.
Right. So it just explains a lot, Yeah, I didn't know about the aircraft. Say what, Lisa? I'm sorry.
There's so much going on. It's
right.
hard.
Well, and one of the things I think is really important for me, the biggest thing that I would love for people to focus, and I know a lot of them are already feeling it from within, and that's really important to focus on, is each individual person's mission and each individual person's role of what's going on. So just like we talk about, there's a lot of theater going on, and you can see plea deals enacted, but you also see people playing their roles. So their roles from the source level, cosmic role, and this is not the time to be standing on the sidelines. This is not the time to be going, well, when are they going to hurry up, or when are we going to hear the whoa marching down the street and and rounding people up. This is the time where everybody needs to play their role in various ways about being forthright, about being transmitters, about sharing little nudges, about as far as just the general, we'll say general beings around you who may not have a clue, or who may be going batshit crazy, or who may be so programmed that as the energies basically deprogram them, they're flailing around and they're like high-pitched hyenas who are squealing at what's going on, because it's the internal dissonance and cognitive dissonance within them that's setting that off. So I'll give an example. Today I was in a store. I was in a, I don't know, it's a frozen, I don't remember the name of it, maybe Jam and Juice. It's a frozen yogurt kind of a place. And I was doing something for work, and so I took a few minutes to stop in there. And there was two women in front of me. They were late 20s, I think. And one of them said to somebody else that I noticed that alert that President Trump sent, and I'm really not interested in another way for him to get in touch with me. And they weren't snarky about it anyway. They just was a little kind of casual thing, and then they went on. And at that moment, I was nudged, okay, now step forward, and this is your way to have to strike a conversation with them about this. So I thought, okay, so let me just kind of in my mind play with a bunch of different scenarios. I followed the nudge in that I played with a bunch of different scenarios and laid out, and I'll share a couple laid out different ways I would do it. I didn't actually connect with these two particular beings, but in playing with that nudge, I did actually go through very quickly. It probably took me, if you're watching linear time, maybe, I don't know, 30, 40 seconds to come up with a lot of different things. And one of the ones that I settled on, there were a couple, but one of the ones that I settled on was a way to say, oh, you got one of those too. That's fascinating, because that's from the office of the president. It's like FEMA. It's not a text thing. It has to do with a security infrastructure that's digital, so that we can all be knowing what's going on if there's some really big emergency that we all need to pay attention to, or if there's a way that we need to respond to something that's not directed from an individual tweet. So again, that's setting it to the broader stages and planting a seed, because even if there isn't much, some people that would generate conversation with, and some people it may not, but it's enough of a seed to realize that it's something different. It's being depoliticized, and more of the benefit of all of us, regardless of what street you live on, or what color your political affiliation is, or any of that kind of thing.
Right.
So that's one example of a nudge that I got today, directly related to this is the time. Now there's some other things that I have done. One with the general manager where I work, and other different things that I have done to give beings a heads up, even though they may not be all that aware, they may not know a lot what's going on, but they trust me from the aspects that they know of me, that there is stuff going on, and how to start to put things into place for that. And that's something that every being needs to do. And it'll come in a way that fits you, that feels a way for you to do it. You may have a little bit of an uncomfortable nudge there, simply because it's a demonstrable way to stand up and stand all in. So we're not in the waiting times anymore. We're not in the, is it going to happen? It's on. It's begun.
Yes.
And I should clarify that, saying it began a long time ago on all the energetics. On the actual linear, tangible, slow motion kind of mainstream way, it has begun.
Yeah.
Right.
And it will unfold very, very quickly.
Yeah. Now,
We
see,
are
I was
doing this now.
that
all of us.
Yes, I was going to say, that actually came into my head quite a bit today, we are doing this now.
Yes.
That's just.
Your shoes better be laced up, double knotted. Because you gonna boots scoot and boogie.
I love it.
I do too. I absolutely adore what is going on. It feels quite delicious from all sorts of angles, sublimely so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And will there be some pockets of dust? Yeah. Will there be a few bumps and jarring here and there? Yeah. And will there be some different scenarios, different occasions, different little pieces here and there where you'll have to step out of your comfort zone? Yeah, you bet. You bet.
Well, that is something, that is why I think that I myself wanted to bring up the idea of this whole martial law thing, because, to be honest, like I said, something happened before Trump got in that I started feeling like that's an awful lot of fear porn. There's an awful lot, a lot of people. And I know that that's what some of the plans were, was to start rounding up people. But I feel there's part of me.
That's what the original WEA was for.
Right. I realize that. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. There was some time ago, maybe a little over 2 years ago, I started getting the feeling that some of that was hyped way too much, if you will. Okay. Not that it wasn't true, because
because it was a delicious elixir of feeding.
Well, yes, but I guess what I'm saying is I was sensing, and I still am sensing, that okay, there's this old adage, they say that, they have to tell us what they're doing because it's free will, right? And so they told us what they were doing, right? But then, and so, yeah, there's that they listened to us and all that, but I started thinking to myself, what's the purpose behind some of it? I don't know. There's so many people on the earth, and so many, many, many more of us than them, sort of thing. Okay. I started feeling like some of the hyping, some of the fear porn, even in the alternative that was being put out about all of this, was extra hyped, and I couldn't figure out why. I'm beginning to see this undercurrent that was, while yes, some of what they're saying was absolutely true, that was part of their plan. And I do feel like that, but
because you've got some wolves in alternative media clothing.
Right. And I felt like all that extra hype was for something specific. And now that we are here in this moment, I see that this is that something specific. In other words, if martial law would need to be enacted, there are some folks out there, I'm hoping that they will have, like you said, have honed their discernment meters that, don't exactly trust what might be going on. You see what I mean with the whole martial law thing. Now, like I said, I'm hoping that, people get a grip on themselves and it won't be needed.
Right.
Obviously. But
well, it's tuning into your own knowing. It's doing what, we've talked about for a long time now, is having listening to those nudges, having those communications going on. you know, that's aside from it's really fun and it's cosmically delicious and it brings you all sorts of amazing things and helps you solve all sorts of things that seem to be nagging and weighing you down and what was being you, you know, it makes all that be erased. But it also gives you a lot of insight and knowledge and understand, and you watch something or you look at something or you partake in something and you go, oh, click, 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 click. You know, it's like the video on the TV screen or whatever what Twitter was pixelated, and then now when those clicks are the different pixels coming in, you go, oh, that's what that's a picture of.
I see it now.
Right. That's what I'm sensing that there's at least an undercurrent out there of that. I was having a conversation with someone today and they were talking about a friend's mother who is an avid, apparently, Alex Jones watcher. She's an older gal, older than myself. And the friend had come in to find her mother on the floor cowering about Nibiru coming and stuff like that. And so, you know, like I said, there's certain hype stuff that has been hyped for specific reasons, it feels. Well, and just in case it's needed to whip up something later.
Well, not only that, but it's the part of it too is the whole where we're taking things like the whole pole shift. Okay, well, we are in a pole shift, and it's not, you know, the magnetic north and pole. It's the polarity has shifted, it's dark to light. You know, we talked about the other day. So that's the pole shift. But people took it instead of metaphorically or energetically. They took it, you know, like on a compass that's a linear compass.
Right.
And just the same thing with something else you just mentioned. Nibiru. So Nibiru, that's part of the ancient language. And those tonings of that language is, again, something that has to do with a frequency vibration and a non-linear 3D, three-dimension physical manifestation. It has to do with a dimension that is not seen readily by most beings' eyes because they're just not in that frequency level, right? It also has to do with, you know, the Anunnaki and all that. So there has lots of things that it has to do with, but oftentimes taken from a very literal, very linear thing. And that's a problem because we're actually multidimensional beings, each one of us. Forget, you know, the this or that or the other thing, just you in the chair, you know. And so you actually have an understanding and a capacity to tune into all of those parts, and what you're being called to do now is to tune into all those different aspects of you, to tune into all that multidimensionality with what's going on right now. With the, you know, the we alert and all that. Tune into that in a multi-dimensional way. Because when something is electronically set out in that sense, it's going through and, okay, let me back up for a minute. So this is not happening in isolation. It's not happening in a vacuum. So if this was just this little old planet and we were just little old beings on this little old planet and we had this swamp shit and we had this, you know, guy kind of pompous, orange hair coming into the thing and, you know, masquerading as a Republican, and because most of those Democrats are bad, they're the you people, and oh, we found out that there's some Republicans that are bad, and, you know, but that's in isolation. That's not taking the truth of what's really going on here on this planet and in all. So when you come out here and you look at that, you go, well, hang on, because we're moving from dark to light in a supernova trajectory right this moment. And those other situations simply, they are not capable of existing. Why? Because we chose it. Now, I know some people say, well, I don't remember choosing, but since you're not disconnected, and Sheila can tell you all about that,
Yes.
and you are having these conversations, even if this, linear think, ego mind can't recall them right this moment, when you go to sleep, when you have different things, you're having these conversations all the time. You're at the meeting, you're at the ops, you're doing these things. You are fully involved. What I'm asking you here, is from the linear part of you in the shirt to get fully involved as well. And to remember it and stand up and stand off. So it's not happening in isolation. So when you have something like that goes through electronically, because the cell phone, we've talked about this before, the cell phone is the last physical, you could say crutch, you could say last physical link that you need from a physical way to your icons.
I'm sorry, it's the last what now?
You could say it's the last physical crutch.
Right.
Or the last physical aid that you need for your icons to come fully online.
Okay, so I'm sorry, the way you worded that, you're saying that that's an aid?
No, what I'm saying
crutch. I get that it's a crutch.
Yeah, okay. So because of that, that's why that's the good part of the reason that the cell phones were developed and stuff was to get all of your data, to get you always telling everybody where you're going, which actually was always being monitored and slotted, and it's a way to control. Okay.
Right.
But since Source has other plans about that, it's also a way to then get you more in touch with that kind of stuff. Because people say, oh, I knew so-and-so was going to go. So that part of you is working in different ways, even if you're not actively participating in connecting to your icons. So what I'm saying, when you see this broadcast come through, and it comes through in such a way, it's another way you could say that it's coming through on a carrier wave on that last crutch or that last physical helping tool to your icons. So it's actually coming through your icons. It's just buzzing on your phone. And you mentioned, why do you think, one of the reasons you said you had this reaction to it? And the reaction to the text that I sent you afterwards, it said, it has begun. Because that's an extension of your icons. Your phone was buzzing and you think, well, that's what it was. No, it was, am I making sense?
No, yeah, you are. You are. You are now. That's why I just wanted to make sure that I understood. And so in my own words, I'll say that you're saying that there was a carrier wave in that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it certainly felt like it. I wasn't in the room and near my phone when the alerts went off. I got 2 of them. Lisa only got 1, which I find kind of odd. She's on Sprint. I'm on Boost, which is an offshoot of Sprint. Why I got 2 and she only got 1, I don't know. Why I got 2 and
I'm on Verizon. I only got 1.
Yeah, see, I don't know. I saw a lot of different folks. Somebody else said they thought they heard somebody got 7. I don't know how that works. So I don't really understand why I got more than 1. But
because maybe if you have a family plan, it might come through different. I don't know. I don't have a family plan.
That could be it. Although I don't have a family plan.
He's not allowed to have a cell phone, so neither is Rose. So
I have a family plan, but we all got the buzz.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just got
checked
1.
with Jasmine.
Yeah, but you all just got 1 buzz, so it's not like
I didn't ask specifically how many buzzes, but we got it.
Well, it just okay. So I didn't catch that, but yeah, I can see where that could definitely be, because it was totally just all over.
Right. And the other thing, so again, think back, so go go to the ground level, right? So the more constrained ground level, and what's going on. So not only would Trump and the White Hats want to bypass, which is why everybody's getting this message, is to bypass the media. Because, people used to say, well, I want the, I can remember, well, still a lot of people say it, but certainly the drumbeat in 11 and 12 was, well, I want to see it on the media. I'm thinking, okay, but that's never going to happen because the media doesn't want to say any of these different things because they're it. So
right.
One of the reasons that you have the the wireless emergency alert system, is so that it can bypass all of that. So it gets directly into the thing, which would make sense why it's a carrier wave, because in essence, source is getting directly into. Now, some people don't listen to source. Some people are not listening to their soul. Some people are not listening to the connection, the conversation, which is always going on and has always been there and has really ramped up lately. A lot of people are. But they listen to their damn cell phone. So if source is talking to you on your cell phone, you might pick it up and listen. Pretty clever, huh?
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that. It brings to mind there. I'm sorry. I'm back on that post that I saw posted where somebody called this thing it tantamount to being raped over this alert thing, and I don't get that whole mentality. So clearly, when they didn't get any kind of download or something, whatever
Yes,
through
they did.
the carrier wave couldn't.
No, yes, they did.
Oh, I see. And so
Yes.
is that toothpaste?
Yes.
Ah, okay. Well, thank you for that then, because I saw that and I was like, oh my goodness gracious, that's.
Yes, that's dissonance. That's dissonance. It's the cognitive dissonance going in there. It's a tube of toothpaste moment going on. Yes. So they got the carrier wave, and all that stuff had to come up because they haven't been thinking for themselves, because they have nowhere near been anywhere near the vicinity of an even remotely not rock solidly closed heart.
Yeah.
And so, you saw it as this, wow. Well, that's cracking the egg, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's nicking the coating in the seed covering of all that thing, that design, that programming. So yeah, absolutely. They did get
and that's why that's why compassion is so important too.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I can feel that.
Now you may have, lift your eyebrow and go, where you been? But if compassion's leading the day, that's cool. And the eyebrow, just raises for a minute and then goes down. That's understandable.
Well, when I see stuff like that, the eyebrow kind of goes, "You are effing kidding me, right?" I mean, I'm.
But again, that's part of that cognitive dissonance.
Right.
So they haven't been thinking for themselves. They haven't been feeling for themselves. They haven't been feeling at all. They haven't been connected to who they really are and what the connection is. And that constant drumbeat has been drumming out and shaking them up and spinning them in the feeding machine, to the Illuminati, and worrying them, just worry.
Yeah.
And so they can't see it. They don't have they have not heretofore had the capacity to look past that, because the reality that they have been fed and they ate hook, line, and sinker is this reality. They're not missing anything, right? And they have the same capabilities, but there's millions of people, many hundreds of millions of people around the whole planet who know what's going on, who know about this text, whether they got it firsthand because they have a U.S. registered phone, or they, they all know different people who had it, right? So that's part of what you felt too, is that, all the beings that are planetary based right this moment got it, and that whole feeling of it. But what I'm saying is that they're not missing anything either. They didn't eat the right, brownie. They didn't read the right book. They didn't come with something super. Everybody has the same thing. Everybody trained the same thing, standing room only to get here. And a lot of beings, they like the shiny prize. A lot of beings let their hearts be ruled that way. So, you could dissect different things, and if that works for you and that's interesting, okay, fine. But the bottom line is that nobody's missing anything. And some, for whatever reason, it doesn't really matter, went in a different way, kept going further and further from themselves, further and further from cutting off their source, right? Mm-hmm. In theory, you can't do it because you deanimate your body and that's it, you're out of here. But that's one of the roles that people have right now, is to reach out that energetic hand. Sometimes it's an actual physical hand, mm-hmm. and to help them. And it's not to sell them, from my perspective, it's not to sell them anything. It's not to, it's just to, is it simply energetic frequency that you send out? Is it simply transmitting? Is it simply a smile? Is it simply, whatever it is, it's simple. It could be words, it could be actual conversing, and it'll be different for each being, and you'll know as you have that figuring out, like I did today in that thing. So the next time that I'm physically standing next to someone or whatever it is, a lot of those different scenarios are now ready, and they'll change in the moment, they'll be shifted to what's going on right in front of me. But I took the time to play all that, because right there it came up front, and what was the best way to feel into how to do that.
Right.
So that's part of, not waiting for the whoa, and the boots marching down, right? But what can I do now? What do I feel moved to do now? What am I being nudged? What's the conversation that me and me are having about doing this? What do I see? And you can do it with someone physically right in front of you. You can do it with an email to friends or family. You can do it in all different ways. And it doesn't have to be, sending someone a clip of Lindsey Graham going off, during the Thursday hearings. It can be about blue sky. It can be about flowers. It can be about all sorts of things that seem totally unrelated, yet they're not, because the frequency vibration is the same. And so more and more and more and more and more right now, moment by moment by moment, you won't be able to miss it. The examples will come so fast and so hard and so furious and so fantastically delicious, where you're seeing examples of frequency bandwidths that are coming, and how to then maneuver within them to expand those frequencies and share the bandwidth. So kind of get your, as if you were a radio tuner, to let your bandwidth, like you can see it, like it has colors, and you can see that it's this wide, and you can see all the stream of it, and someone's standing next to you, or someone's in an email, or someone's on the phone, however that someone is, right? And you can get your bandwidth just for a moment to overlap into their bandwidth, so that they can feel it, so that there's an actual intentional conscious exchange with that. And then you can get it to stop and just be this thing. And then that's the seed planted. It's a moment, something more than just a smile. So in other words, that smile is enhanced by what you did there. And everybody will, this is my way to language it, everybody will figure it out for themselves. Right. But this is it's begun. So this is the time to unequivocally do this in demonstrable ways, energetically demonstrable, in a linear way demonstrable, with your heart open demonstrable. because there you go. Because
I have stopped completely silencing my phone for that very purpose.
right.
I don't do that anymore during recordings.
Because this is part of your roles to play.
Yeah.
And I can assure you, sitting around just waiting for it to read the latest Twitter so you can hear, are you hearing that, marching is not one of them.
Well, as someone who, still sometimes wonders, am I doing everything I'm supposed to be doing? So the only thing that I'm going to say about that for me is to just make sure to follow those nudges. I have seen over the last week, specifically, we've had a couple conversations about this with Jennifer, and Lisa and I had another conversation with a friend who lives in Australia just yesterday. How important following through on a nudge, no matter what it looks like, what you think someone else is going to think about you if you do follow through with it. In this particular case, the beautiful being that followed through on her nudge was concerned about bothering me, but followed her nudge anyway. And I'm so ever so grateful because it was very helpful for me. She thought she was asking me for help when indeed what happened was it was beautiful all the way around. But I'm just saying that there's no accident that's been in my field quite a bit recently. And I mean, obviously that's what I am now going to be doing for myself because I see how important that is. Yes. So I guess all of that to say that I still am not really clear whatever it is I'm supposed to be doing or whatever. So I'm just going to follow the nudges because I think that's where it's coming through at.
Yes.
To be honest. And I'm just going to move in that confidently in that direction and know that it will just get.
It's not linear. It's not linear. So nudge here does not directly relate to nudge here, does not take you to nudge here, and over here. Okay?
No, exactly.
So part of we've talked about this a lot over the last 10 months, almost 12 months, because it's October something. Part of it are direct, some of them are oblique, some of them are indirect, some of them are tangential, some of them are prep, some of them are proving, some of them are flexing, some of them are creative flow enhancement, building muscles. They're all related. Everything is connected. Everything is related.
Yes, and even if what I've noticed for myself here recently now is even if it doesn't seem related in any way, shape, or form, like I said, and I can't figure out why it is that I've not been nudged or whatever. It is. There's a few nudges that I've followed through on that I haven't seen the proving or why did I do that.
But you're not proving to you. You're proving to you.
Well, very, 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 very true. Probably could be. I'm not going to discount that at all. But I'm also saying that I have a feeling that it will be shown to me at another time. That's what I'm saying. When you were saying it's like spiral, you're not going to see it right away. Right, well, I followed that nudge and nothing ever came of it. Well, yeah, not so fast.
Right.
Because it doesn't always present right away.
Well, and they're not linear nudges. You're not linear. You're multidimensional.
Right. Right. So I may not ever see anything in this specific physicality even maybe, but by following through with it, no, that feels right.
Well, and I've been holding it too that there's also once I do a thing, it sort of triggers another thing. And so it's really important not to ignore any nudges for that reason as well. And not only for yourself, but for others too. Like, I think we've kind of seen the past couple of days, Sheila, where, you know, some apparent random thing that I might be inclined to do then later pans out to be not so random at all and rather significant. And so it's not even for me to decide, oh, what's important or what's worthy of my attention to follow through on. Because just because I don't understand the big picture now doesn't mean that there isn't one.
Right. So you're absolutely right. You gave a great illustration, maybe unwittingly, for the other part that goes with that is that when the holing is occurring. So all of you is coming into you, imploding into you. And since you now are going and you've stood up and said, I'm all in, right? And you're 100% committed to, right? So that means that remember we talked about the linear aspect of you is in charge of the linear aspect of you until you do the expansion, until you say, I'm all in. Once you do that, the linear aspect of you is no longer in charge of the linear aspect of you or all of the rest of you. You know, it's in partnership, but in that imploding, your soul is coming in and now it is in charge of all of you. So that's another aspect of that proving. So the linear aspect is no longer in charge, yet it gets, you know, all highfalutin thinking, but that's a stupid nudge. I'm not going to do that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, hang on. The linear aspect, I'm all in. The linear aspect of you is no longer in charge of that. So again, that's that proving, oh, okay, so you're really not all in, right? You're really not all committed. You know, right? This is the conversation that's going on. No, I am. Okay, nudge. Well, okay, so you're really not all in. You see how this is, you know, this is how this works. And then when you say, no, I am all in, I don't understand this, but yes, okay. Whatever you go do, oh yeah, they're all in. Cool, look at that. Okay, right? That's how it flows. So it's not simply just to test from a, you know, human linear kind of hierarchical thing. It has to do with, are you ready? Because the test is a love test. And the test is not a punitive thing. That's linear, right? The test is, oh, their heart's open. Oh, they're ready. Oh, they're excited. Oh, they want to do this. Okay, great. Cool. Let's do it. Not, you got it wrong. It doesn't work that way. It's not what it is. But we're programmed that way, so we think that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, it's time to put your pencils down. And see how many you got wrong. No, it's time to raise your hand and jump all in. And that's what we're seeing unfold right here. You know, this is, you know, this was what we, part of the alert here is the wireless emergency alert. So it's on it's broadcast to all U.S. registered cell phones. Now you can be standing in another country, but if you have a U.S. registered cell phone, you're going to get it. Okay, and so think about people who work, you know, foreign service all over the place. They got this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is another thing. This is an alert. This is a nudge that's going all over to all about what's going on. And as one of the ones that you mentioned, Sheila, you know, where that person was the tube of toothpaste moment from that. So that's part of that. That's part of expressing and expelling those things that are an anathema to the truth of who that being is, which is love, which is compassion, which is having the higher mind actually work in concert with the heart and to take action from there rather than a constricted, contrived ego lower mind, which is just feeding these channels of program.
Well, that's an important thing. I think that I want to reiterate what you said, actually. Because, yeah, while it does raise the eyebrow to see, some that are having these tube of toothpaste moments as things are coming up and spewing out all over, but there's going to be a lot more of it. And any of us, myself included, I would hope, those who feel they know a thing about all of this, and those that are having these tube of toothpaste moments, a lot of it is going to be in regards to, Trump or whatever's going on or whatever, as these things are going on, to just keep all that in mind. I know that they're, I'm referring to the folks that, in the alternative, we will say the sleeping ones, the ones that don't know anything about the conspiracies or and then a lot of folks feel like a lot of folks are putting their head in the sand on some of these things. And I guess what I'm saying is that there's a lot of us that have done a lot of research that know a lot of stuff, or think we know a lot of stuff anyway. And so when faced with someone who doesn't know any of this and makes silly comments about, let's say this wireless emergency alert thing that happened, because that's what we're speaking of in particular. I don't know. It just feels like it's important to keep in mind that, these folks don't know because they haven't done the research, and no, maybe they did put their heads in the sand. But there was a time, I remember a time when I was like, what is going on? And so this is going to be happening for a lot of folks. I guess I just wanted to reiterate that.
Yeah, and it made me think of another way to kind of paint a word picture of it. So there's been a lot of talk. It's actually it's a model in strategy. It's a model in strategy in business. It's a model of strategy in psychological warfare. It's a model strategy in kind of PSYOP type tactics. It could be not just military, but in all. And that's projection. So you shout loud over here, and you're accusing over there, and that's a way to deflect and diffuse and to cover something that you've actually done over here, right? So, okay, and because the ones that are doing that right now, you can say, a lot of people could say, well, that's mostly Democrats. Okay, except that this is not, there's not two parties. It's only one party. So, put a D or an R in there. It doesn't matter. It's because there are some Republicans that are standing up and deflecting as well. Okay, fine. So now you take this person that you're talking about as an example. So again, it just so happens that her tube of toothpaste, her cognitive dissonance moments was, again, the same thing of projecting. There's no coincidence that that's happened, right? There's no coincidence. Those are correlations to the programming that is running.
Right. I guess I just wanted to remind some folks that, as these things are being shown, that, that compassion piece
Mm-hmm.
for all of us, because, myself included, like I said, you have indicated many times that the scratch of the tip of the iceberg. So that tells me that all of us that, like I said, think we know a thing. Maybe we don't know as much as we think we might know. So it might be a good idea to, be a little humble and expect the unexpected at all times. I feel that as a truism right now.
Yeah.
I look around at the astrology. I look around at what's going on everywhere. All of that is showing me that it's going to be very, very intense this entire, the next at least 40, 50, 60 days, if not a little longer than that.
Yeah, and just for clarity, I'll kind of summarize and repeat what you're referring to. And what I was talking about is lots of different beings have done tremendous amount of research and brought forth a lot of really well put together nuggets of information in all different kinds of mediums, right? And media and conversations and so on and so forth. And what I'm saying is all those different beings have uncovered a tremendous amount of stuff, and that stuff is big. That stuff is huge. That stuff is a wow eye-opener for a lot of beings, and a lot of stuff there. And what I'm saying is if you take the totality of all that in all different sectors, sections, structures, areas, milieus of, the kind of different things going on, so various kinds of slavery, various kinds of control, various kinds of fraud, various kinds of subterfuge, all that, right? That whole big thing. That, for what you will see come out, is just that whole big ball of wax, which is, admittedly a pretty big ball of wax, okay? Yeah. It is just a few shavings, just a few little scrapings. Like if you start to shave a pencil and you sharpen it, that's it, that much. That represents that much on the tip, very tip of the iceberg of what is the absolute data that has heretofore being hidden, which encompasses on planet things, within the planet, and in the various multiverses. On different frequencies of one might consider a constrained, narrow, dense frequency, or a expansive frequency, what someone might constrain as a positive frequency, vibrational bandwidth range, or many of them, or negative. So that's what you're talking about, but I just wanted to, say it again.
No, I'm glad you did, because I really think that's something that, it's something that I was beckoned to say. So, because I think it would behoove us all to keep that in mind,
right,
as we move forward. That, and the fact that we have every single one of us, being complicit in every single thing that has gone on.
Yes.
On this planet, off this planet, and in the multiverses. Mm-hmm. And that's something else to keep in mind.
Yep.
I get it. There's going to be beings, because I already hear them right now. I'm not complicit in anything. Oh yes. Sorry. Yes, you are. You are also part of the one and the singularity. So ipso facto, we are all complicit.
We're all complicit. And
everybody
in some areas and some shavings, right? We're directly did it directly and indirectly and complicit.
Yes. And just in every, well, again, for me, there's when you get down to the root of it, if there's really only one of us here, guess what? Makes us all complicit. So everybody needs to just get over that too. That's for me some of the biggest comedic, cosmically comedic stuff going on for me when I sit and think about everything that's going on. And I was about to say, where did BZ go? Because I had my eyes shut. Rose Kitty.
Yeah, and the other thing, then this may be, as if that wasn't hard enough for some people to deal with. The other thing is that that may be hard for people to understand. It is that that's really a beautiful thing, because in that it helps you to have a broader perspective on everything, and it lets you have the experience of your multidimensionality showing, and that you're not small. So you've been tootling around the multiverses for eons, infinity wise, and and since it's not past, present, or future anymore, you're collapsing timelines of your quote unquote past, and your future self is right here in the moment. So from the linear brain, is there a lot to kind of look at and go, yeah, there is. Yes. But there's so much. I mean, we're just literally swimming in help. We're swimming in path paving, pictorial from an energetic standpoint, and and a physical as well, of navigating through all of this, remembering all of this, right? So their corpus callosum is remembering all of this. And Lisa gave on camera the other night about the tingling over here and this, that, and the other thing, and talking about it. Oh yeah, it's answering over here, because this is all going on.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I would just wrap up for me and say that today was a cosmically delicious day, even if, not everybody understands that. And even for those who, and, I felt hundreds of millions of beings that were planet-based absolutely rejoice. And I also felt, untold scores more that are not planet-based rejoiced. I mean, to me, it was such a incredible flow of it. There were also a much, 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 much smaller number of beings who were terrified. And, that's where compassion also goes out as well. So we're in this, it's on. It's absolutely all on, and there's no going back. And I know it has not all that much to do with just linear DC and that. It's the change of everything in all of Source's multiverses. Just that. That's all that we're talking about.
Oh, okay.
Just that old chestnut. No big, just changing up everything in all of Source's universes.
Yep.
Hang on.
Never to be the same again.
That's right.
Yay.
That's right.
Yes. Well, thank you. Right.
Right. And so what? And I mean that literally, metaphorically, energetically, physically, linearly, because each being has committed it to energetic frequency notepad, we'll say, for lack of a better way to determine, that there is no need for these kinds of trajectories, these kinds of unfolding, these kinds of playing out and diving into, doesn't need to ever happen again, ever. There's so much more rich stuff that we can create. What? Well, we haven't created it yet, so we can do that. But these kinds of things, this kind of treachery, this kind of slavery, this kind of bravery, this kind of courage in all its different formats, to go out and to go in the trajectory and go as far as we possibly could in playing all of this out, we're complete. Don't need to do this ever again. Because, you know, creator beings don't keep doing reruns. You got it. It's done. You know, we can visit it. We may have the holodeck someplace where we're hanging out on vacation and we want to relive something. Cool. Okay. But that's just an isolation, you know, kind of simulation, as it were, of that particular thing.
Well, I hope that this will be received in the spirit in which it's said. I, for one, will not be sorry to see this go. And as far as I'm concerned, bye, Felicia. You know, that whole thing. Yes, I'm so glad that it is on its way out and it's not ever coming back. And we've played it out. So I love that.
And that's why it's up to each of us to stand up and open-heartedly, joyfully, graciously, and with the utmost expanse of compassion to usher it out.
Yep.
And doing it, you know, tap dancing all the way as we go, because we're going to party. Yeah. All of us are going to party.
Oh, yeah.
All beings are going to party.
Yes, I'm excited about that. And I think we're going to be talking about that pretty soon. Actually. Yeah. So, yay.
Dancing shoes are on.
Yep.
Well, awesome. Do either one of you have anything else to add that you would like to add to this energetic envelope?
Nope. Time to get to play. Some people call it work. I call it play. It's time to do it.
Let's play.
Yeah. I'm ready too. Well, we'll have everyone's, all the usual stuff in all the usual places. And for some reason, I was thinking there was a link, but I guess not. I guess that's it. So thanks, ladies. And till next time.